Welcome to Golf Industry Guru and the Gig Podcast, where we interview the best and brightest golf and hospitality leaders on the planet. On today's episode, you will learn some proven real-world solutions that'll help you and your team solve some of your biggest golf business challenges. So stick around for some tips, tools, and training to get you, your people, and your business powered on. Here's your host, James Kronk.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Golf Industry Guru podcast. I am your host, James Kronk, and a month or so ago, I had the pleasure of being at the Golf Inc. Summit in Palm Springs, and at that time, heard so many wonderful speakers talking about the game of golf, talking about all kinds of things like Topgolf and Screen Golf and growing the game, and a little bit of discussion about Live Golf and the PGA. And there was a lot of positivity going on. But there was also some individuals that I really love listening to that had some other kind of perspectives about some challenges that we might face in the future that we all remember pre-COVID we were concerned about. And you know that I have been talking about this at great length for many years about the concerns about the growth of junior golf and getting kids in the game. And so I am very fortunate to have as our guest today, Mr. Nacho Giraldo, who is actively involved in, my goodness, the man's LinkedIn page. You got to scroll down 3 sections before you even get to the golf industry because he's philanthropist, he's an investor, he's obviously involved in a significant company that does all kinds of stuff, but more importantly, he is part of a new movement called Park Golf, which we're going to get into in a moment. But Nacho, welcome to the Gig Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us for what I'm sure is your always very busy schedule.
Oh, thank you, James. Thanks for having me here. It was great to meet you down in Palm Springs. And I'm, as you probably know already, I'm incredibly passionate about what we're going to talk about today. So it was easy to carve out the time.
And thank you. And Nacho, it was evident when you were talking on the stage and you had a few other, once again, a lot of smart people that were at that conference. But one of the things that was so interesting to me was mostly that you don't work in the golf business, and you're obviously passionate about the game. And so before we get into a few other things, where did that passion start? How did you, tell us about your love of the game of golf.
Yeah, I grew up in Colombia, thus the Nacho Giraldo part. And I had an uncle who lived in Pittsburgh. And my mom, when I was 13, sent me there for a summer because she wanted me to try to learn to speak better English for my future, which actually was a good idea. And I came to visit my uncle and stay there for the summer, and he'd give me random jobs so he could pay me some money for staying busy. But little did I know, he actually was a golf fanatic himself, and he took me out to his course in Pittsburgh, and he put a golf club in my hand. I'm not sure there was much of a lesson of any kind, and he said, just come play with me. And it was definitely golf at first hit. It was incredible for me to have that experience of what golf felt like. I went back to Colombia after the summer, begging my dad to find a place where I could go play golf. And similar to the topic we're going to talk about today, I couldn't find much. It's especially in Colombia and Latin America, it's still a very elitist sport. It's played in private clubs. There's not a lot of public access. It's expensive. So I couldn't do it. It was incredibly frustrating. And I really just got into it probably much later on when I was around 20. And that's how it all started.
And now today, do you get to golf much? I believe you're a member of the Olympic Club, which I had a wonderful experience there when I was a young golf professional. They were very generous to have me play there, and that's an amazing facility. But do you get to play much golf now? How's that? How's your handicap? How's your game? Is you still getting the shot euphoria that you had when you were a young boy?
Absolutely. First of all, if you're a golfer, you know that no golf is ever enough. So that's the answer.
True.
I don't play enough. I probably play on average once a week, which is pretty good given my day job that I know we'll cover a little bit. The handicap, I don't know. It always seems like it's too low for the reality of my golf skills.
Yeah,
probably like a 7.5 index or something.
Very good. Well, it's never high enough when you're playing in the club championship. That's for sure.
But I think the one thing I'll say is my love of golf goes really deep, because for me, it's always been this place of peace and calm. And I know it might sound strange to some people who go out there and throw their clubs and get pissed when they miss a shot.
Yeah.
But life's too short. So I go play golf, and I find it to be a place of meditation, walking nature with good friends, a game that is incredibly challenging in such a good way. To me, it just brings out the best in people. It's about patience and perseverance and creativity and honor. I just don't think there's any better. I always say, if you ever want to meet someone, really get to know them, go play golf. And by the way, if you ever want to meet someone that doesn't have time to meet you, what better than having them captive for 4 hours? So that's my love for golf comes because I feel it's been such an incredible tool for my life. I'm kind of an anxious, hyperactive person. I find it really hard in my life to slow down. And golf is that one place where I forget everything and I just focus on the ball. And I absolutely get shot euphoria. I mean, there's nothing like hitting a good shot in golf. So, yes, when it comes, it's pretty nice.
Speaking of your day job, I would assume that golf becomes part of the corporate world. And like you said, the 4 hours on a golf course with an individual, you'll learn very quickly. And we talk about all the business deals and all the things that can happen on a golf course. But just briefly, Nacho, so and I guess really I'm also interested in how your corporate life connects you with the world of golf, and if it does at all. Maybe it doesn't at all. I'm not sure. But obviously, as I said, you're, and I want to talk in a little bit too about your many different volunteer efforts, because that's going to play a part, obviously, in your volunteering with regards to your role with Park Golf. But let's start with the corporate world. What's your day job, and is it tough to find time to play golf?
Yeah, I work for a firm called TPG Capital. It is one of the big private equity firms in the world. We're managed about 220 billion of capital now. And, in private equity, what you do is you buy companies, you grow them, make them better, and sell them. Within the firm, I work for a fund called the Rise Fund, and the Rise Fund's mission is to make the world a better place. And, it's really it's an impact fund. So we only invest in climate solutions or social impact solutions. And it's a job I love, obviously, because I wake up every day to invest in companies that are truly making the world better, whether it's, new electric vehicle technologies or batteries or new ways of doing agriculture or new ways of educating people and bringing fairness to the world of education. That's the kind of stuff we do. And I love it. It's pretty busy. I travel a lot, thus the once a week golf, which I'd love for it to be more. Honestly, I don't have a lot of connectivity to golf through my job, other than the random once in a while business golf round, which might happen very few times. But I did have, before TPG, I actually ran the Nike golf business for a couple of years.
That's true.
That is definitely a place where I connected to golf. And it definitely has something to do with Park Golf, because back when I was at Nike, I met a bunch of people in the industry, PGA Tour, PGA, USGA, and golf professionals. And I've always, as we'll talk about in a second, I've always try to have a slightly different perspective than I think people have had in the golf industry. It's not a negative perspective. We'll talk about it in a second. It's just different, and it's based on data. I'm a very data-driven person. I'm a business person who does a lot of work on strategy. So after I left Nike, because I really wanted to stay connected with the world of golf, I offered to do a strategic plan piece of work for the World Golf Foundation, who, if you know that
Yes.
the first tee sits under the World Golf Foundation. And I actually recruited a bunch of really talented people to work pro bono, like me. And we worked for the CEO of the World Golf Foundation, Steve McLaughlin. And we came up with a strategy that resulted in some restructuring. And, they did a number of different things with that. And one of the topics we covered was golf participation, which we'll cover in a minute. But so that was a big time of connectivity to the golf industry in my life. And then we'll talk about Park Golf later, but that was the next step in my golf journey, trying to contribute to the game.
Well, it's so interesting. So about, I'm going to say 18 years ago, Nacho, I was involved in writing the strategic plan for growing the game of golf in Canada. And at that time, met Steve Bona, met many others that were there involved, and in fact spoke at the Golf 2020 conference once again, I don't know, 15, 17 years ago, I can't remember. And one of the exercises that we went through in that process was looking at countries that had been having success in growing the game. And this was before, the first tee was just getting started back then, if not, maybe it hadn't even started yet. I remember even thinking, snag golf was just a twinkle in someone's eye. There was a few other countries, Sweden in particular, and England was doing some work. But I'm trying not to be cynical too. I've been in this industry for 30 plus years, but I do get frustrated when sometimes I'm at a conference 15 years later, and we're still talking about the challenges of getting kids into the game, getting minorities into the game, making the game accessible, short courses, 12-hole courses, some of these things. And if you knew me at all, you'd know that I have some strong opinions that are not always in everyone's agreement. But let's talk about that. So it makes sense now when you talk about the other endeavors that you've been involved with. And I looked up a little bit, just, with Teachers of Tomorrow or Phil's Coffee or different things, and Park Golf. That must be so interesting for you to be able to work with individuals that are making the world better. And as you spoke so eloquently about at the conference, golf is something that you communicated that you feel can be one of those activities, right? And that's what we talk about. I like to say that golf is the antithesis to the cell phone. It gets you away. If you want to spend 4 hours of quality time if I want to spend 4 hours of quality time with my two boys, I get them on the golf course. I get them away from their phones, away from technology, away from all the distractions. So is that how you found your way into Park Golf? And I guess more importantly, let's just explain to our listeners, and I invite you all to look up, park-golf.org, but to look up the foundation of it. But tell us about the genesis of Park Golf and how that came about for yourself, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So we did the strategy piece with the World Golf Foundation. A piece of that work was related to golf participation, what you are talking about, right? Bringing kids, more diversity into the game of golf. And we identify what I call the 5 barriers to golf participation. It's a very simple framework, but again, it's just based on data. It's lack of access, right? There's 16,000 golf courses or 15,000 or so in the US. If you compare that to the number of places where people can shoot hoops or play tennis or throw a football or kick a soccer ball, it's nothing, right? So access is always an issue. If you want to bring someone to golf, you got to find a place, and it's not that simple. The second big barrier is intimidation. there's no question. It's an intimidating sport when you're trying to get started, right? There's actually a very negative perception among people who don't play golf about golf, which is, it's like one of those sports where it's kind of you're in it or you're not. And it's because of a lot of history in golf about, well, it's difficult. You got to have the clubs and the balls, and then you show up and there's all these rules and people look at you like, what are you doing? You're done, and you got to go fast or go slow. Or, I mean, you don't just go to a golf course and say, I'm here to play golf, right? There is this journey that needs to take you there, and it's a complicated journey. So that's number two. Number three is lack of diversity, and only 22%, I think, of golfers in the U.S. come from diverse backgrounds, when the U.S. is about 50% diverse. That means there's very big underpenetration of diversity in the world of golf. And there's one stat that we looked at when we did that research that was mind-blowing to me. It's that if your parents don't play golf, the probability you're going to ever be a golfer is about 1 in 250. That is screamingly low, especially if you compare it to things like soccer, right? Everybody goes to school and plays soccer, like the little, not
when
golf.
You put that slide up, when that like, you see stats all the time, and you see all these charts and graphs of population and changes and growth and decline. But that stat right there, the one that you showed, and that was, if I recall correctly, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but if both parents play, Nacho, the likelihood of a child playing is, I believe, was it 1 in 4?
Yes, I think that was it. I gotta go review.
I think it's 1 in 4, and then I think if one parent plays, or maybe 1 in 8.
That's actually 2 in 5 if both play, so 40%.
Yeah,
and 1 in 4 if only one parent plays, and then 1 in 250.
250, unbelievable.
Yeah.
And when you think about in North America, the immigration that is coming to both of our countries, and we talk about the fact that they're like, you talk about Colombia, the reality is that immigration that comes to our countries normally come from places where golf is not accessible to the average person. So exactly. a soccer pitch is, a badminton field is, there's different things that are, but golf is not one of those things. So the likelihood of those parents, both of them playing golf, is extremely low as you look at the future, and a sobering number. On your website, you also kind of talk about the fact that we really, post-COVID, the golf industry has been growing, and we all know the boon. And as I like to remind people, if you were broken before COVID, you're still broken. And so, you didn't become a master operator all of a sudden that's giving you 20% more rounds of golf. Your marketing didn't get better. Your service didn't get better, but that's beside the point. But the concern is that I don't think that same number is translating into junior golfers, at least in the stats that I've been able to find. And you talk about that in statistics.
Yeah, I think I'm going to finish one point and then get into that.
Thank you.
Which is critically important. Yeah, I talked about the barriers. One is access, intimidation, lack of diversity. The other one's time. It's a long sport to play. I mean, when you talk about short courses and all that, it takes time. So to go play a real round of golf, we're talking 4.5 hours plus getting there, coming back. New generations of people have trouble concentrating for 10 seconds on TikTok, right? Or so we got to start thinking about how you engage people that come with a very different frame of mind. And that is probably one of my, if you said, where do I come from in my life generally, is what I call consumer first thinking. To just think about the needs of the people you're going to serve and then design solutions for those needs. This is where I've been a bit critical of the golf industry over the last 25 years, is it seems like it's doing the same over and over again, right? It's like doing it harder and faster, but it's the same. It's you got to be in tune with the needs of new generations. And on the diversity point, it's pretty incredible. But this country, if you look at the population below 25 years, 34 years, it's already about 53% from diverse backgrounds. So if you're not growing in that population, you're not growing. And so the next 30 years, this country is going to see a change where minorities are more than 50% because all these people in these brackets are just getting older. They become a majority. The people at the bottom, by the way, and all the kids in this country are being born of minorities. So
Yes.
go recruit those people. So, and the last complication is expense. It's definitely much cheaper to kick a soccer ball than to go play golf. So we got to figure out that one too. Those are the 5 big barriers to golf. And so let's go to COVID for a second. What changed because of COVID of those 5 barriers? The answer is, my theory, this is my theory. So, happy someone can say it's completely wrong, but nothing changed. Access is the same, intimidation, the same, lack of diversity, the same, expense, the same, time. We all got more time because during COVID, everybody went to play golf because there was nothing else available. And then the other thing that's changed a lot is with the coming of remote work. I was at the club one day at the Olympic, and I was chatting with the pro, and I said, "Hey, how are rounds?" He's like, "We're still packed." Right? I'm like, "That's so interesting. I would have thought with COVID going away, it would come down a little bit." He's like, "See that guy?" And he points to a guy on the first tee, and I'm just like, "What? I don't see anything strange." He's like, "He is working from home." Quotes.
Exactly.
I'm like, I was just cracking up because, like, oh my God, that's so funny, but it's probably true, right? That if you're not traveling that much and you're working remote, but everybody's coming back to the office slowly but surely. And I fear that if we don't look at breaking these barriers, then we're going to be back in the same place. And by the way, if you look at the statistics of the National Golf Foundation, rounds played in the U.S. this year have started to look a lot more like 2019. No surprise, right? And so, the way I tend to look at things is in the long term. So I care a lot about the long term. This is where we humans are complicated, right? We're very short-term thinkers. Does it apply to me in the next 10 years? If not, why care? It's like the environment. Why take care about the environment? I don't see an impact. Why collaborate? Well, because 50 years from now, the future generations are kind of screwed. So this is the same with this problem about golf participation. I think we need to make sure we address the 5 barriers. And that's exactly how the idea for Park Golf was created. By looking at those 5 barriers, we say, is there anything we can make up from thin air that would address this? And that would be a bridge, because there's a lot of places for older people to even things like Top Golf. You can go, you can drink, you can have fun, but it's not a place for little kids to engage while breaking all those barriers. Talk about it. I mean, it's pretty expensive, by the way. It's not. So that's how this group of people, we said, what if we created these facilities that we could put in public parks, meaning it's accessible in your neighborhood, with no rules, meaning no intimidation. If it's in your middle-class neighborhood in this country, there's going to be diverse people there. It's super short and quick. It's meant to last, you could do 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and then it's free. That's it. That breaks down all the barriers. That would be, so the idea for Park Golf was born out of analysis and the 5 barriers to golf. And Park Golf basically is an idea of putting these little mini facilities in public parks around the country where you'd have 3 miniature holes, call them 40 yards, 50 yards, with these flights that some people know them. They're called, I think, Cayman balls.
Yeah.
Kind of that type of ball that you actually can hit it and hit someone, within 5 feet and not hurt them. That's the important part. It's got to be safe. And then you can, but they fly very nicely, and you can actually get shot euphoria hitting those balls. That's the key. Because people have said to me, what about mini golf? I like putt. I'm like, no. That's not, you don't get shot euphoria or the feeling of like it is a very different experience. So that is the idea behind Park Golf. And it's not, to me, the ultimate goal here is not necessarily to have every park in the nation have a Park Golf. It's really more about proving to people that this notion of facilities that are a bridge for kids of diverse backgrounds to get into golf. If you ask me what my dream was, my dream would be that every private golf club in this country builds and in the side lot that they have one of these things and let people in the neighborhood play for free, right? Because 30 years from now, they're going to come knocking on your door saying, I want to be a member, right? It's a 30-year vision that which is why it's so hard to get things like these off the ground. And the park golf thing, we embarked in it on our own because it was hard to do it under the umbrella of the World Golf Foundation at the time. But the World Golf Foundation is our partner. They provided us some seed capital. The First Tee is also working with us, and they're dreaming and salivating with the idea that they're going to be able to use these facilities across the country. Troon Golf, by the way, this is one of my few business connections to golf these days from my day job, is that my firm actually is an investor in Troon Golf, so I get to hear a lot about how golf is going. But I have, just because this is not related to my business, I have a couple guys from Troon Golf that work with us. Steve Mona is on our board, who you mentioned was the ex-CEO of the World Golf Foundation. Robert Trent Jones Jr. is one of the founding sponsors here, and they're designing our first course in Jackson, Mississippi. So that's my ambition, is to make this a movement, as you called it at the beginning. This is not, it's a non-for-profit. Nobody here cares about who gets credit for anything. We just want to tell the golf world, if you want this sport to be healthy in 30 years, invest now in the demographics of this country and in creating that bridge that breaks down all the barriers that you need to break.
We'll get back to our conversation in a moment. But first, are you ready to learn from the world's greatest golf and hospitality industry leaders? Train your team and grow your business with a membership to Golf Industry Guru. Join for less than $3 per day and give your entire team access to over 150 hours of courses, podcasts, webinars, templates, articles, live Q&A calls, and more. Free content samples and registration details at golfindustryguru.com.
It's such a fantastic endeavor, and what I love about it is that you guys are, first of all, you're making it happen. I mean, you've broken ground, I believe, or I saw a video in Jacksonville of the real deal. Like, I mean, it was an announcement. The shovels are in the ground, although there's probably not shovels needed, but getting it started. And you do have this. I mean, I can tell you at Golf Industry Guru, we're big fans of our friends at Troon and love all the efforts. And may I ask you, Nacho, I would say that there's never been more grow the game efforts that people can choose from. Okay. So like if you're a golf course owner operator, 15 years ago, there was 2 or 3 get started in golf. And, now there's 30 of them, right, that you can choose from. They might have different names and different iterations of something that was invented 20 years ago. But at the end of the day, if you want to implement a grow the game effort in your community, there's numerous options out there. The First Tee's in Canada, there's other programs in other parts of the world. But if you're an operator or you're a private club, if you're the president of the private club and you stood up in the AGM and said, guess what? We're going to start opening up the First Tee to kids on Sunday afternoons at 2:00. You wouldn't be a president for very long. If you're a golf course owner operator and you all of a sudden decide to bring in a $10 green fee for kids and instead of your $60 green fee, well, the reality is that pre-COVID, we were all surviving to, keep the doors open and the lights on. And that's not too far away as a potential reality in the future. So is there anything that you've been able to learn in those conversations, in getting that support? I mean, obviously, like you said, I love your example about the environment, right? 10 years ago, you tell someone about a sustainability program, they'd ask you, what are you talking about? Now, if you don't have a sustainable program in your business, guess what? Your Gen Zs won't show up. Like they'll turn on you in a heartbeat if you're throwing plastic cups out the door. Like the new era, they care about the planet. They care about what they're being left with. So do you see that philosophical shift happening in the golf industry? Because what I would agree with you about is that I always like to say business always wins. And so, like, in order to be sustainable in the future, you have to do these things. Like, your customer, if you're a Chun of the world and you manage 200 properties around the world, well, if you're not growing the game, you're going to have a tough time having 200 profitable facilities in 15, 20 years. So have you seen that shift in the business minds of those influencers in the golf industry? I guess is my long-winded kind of question, commentary.
I would say, one of the things that we were talking about was how us humans are a bit short-term minded. And the industry of golf has, who would have ever thought, right? That, the things that have happened with COVID, no one would have ever thought that they would be the biggest boom for a lot of things, by the way, because it brought inflation, it brought a lot of other things. But think about golf and what it did to golf. It's crazy, right? Like you said, no one remembers anymore the fact that 4 years ago we were worried about participation, and then now everybody talks like golf has been great forever. And so even I will admit to you, even I, in some of the conversations about park golf, have felt this. Some people are like, well, but why would we need that? Look at us. We're flying. I'm like, okay, I give to you that we had some 3 great years, but let's go back to the basics. Let's go back to the stats and the golf rounds played starting to go back to historical averages. Let's go back to diversity participation, kid participation, and then tell me that you don't think this is going to revert back to the norm. That's sort of my opinion. So I'm a little critical that I think people are very short-term minded. Look, this is what you see in business, right? It's like the plastic, whatever. Take any industry, and it grows, and then people build plants all over the world to produce it until everybody built too many plants, and then demand comes down. You have to shut down plants. People go broke, and then that's it. That's the life of business. This is probably not that much different. I just hope that we can anticipate what might happen. If you look at course closures, this is something else I talked about in Palm Springs. And I said, it might sound a little dramatic, but I always say a piece of my heart dies every time a golf course is closed, because it's not coming back. Those courses are not coming back. The courses, there's I think in the last 20 years, about an average of 100 courses have been closed every year in the U.S., something like that. What do you think? It's not Shinnecock that's closing. It's the course where the diverse people would have played, because it's from $0 to $35. That's the one we need. Those are the ones we need to protect. And I want to create demand for those courses 25 years from now before they continue to shut down. And that is part of the mission here. Again, I fear that because COVID's been so great for all of us, that we might forget that this might go back to being what it used to be.
A question for you before I ask you about park golf and owners and facilities. But if I may, and just because I've always spouted this, and I don't know if it's true, but it sounds like it makes sense to me. I believe that as technology becomes more intrusive in our lives, that families and people, but families in general, will seek out experiences that get away from that. Like you talked about yourself with regards to, being a busy individual and being a productive individual, that the golf is a sanctuary for you.
Yeah.
Have in your data or your business world, I guess, or I guess, are there any stats? Is there any kind of trends? Are there any, if you take golf out of the picture, are there other kind of trends and recreational experiences that would support that thought? That, because as I said, when I'm talking to people about why you get your kids into golf, it's for all those things. It's morality, it's health, it's fresh air, it's with your friends and buddies, and you can be a good golfer playing with a terrible golfer, and you can still walk together and play the same day. Hopefully we don't roll the ball back 15 yards. That's a whole other topic. But it's about all the great things that, and if you're not a golfer, you don't realize what shot euphoria is. You don't realize what all those things are. I don't think we do a very good job as an industry of marketing shot euphoria, of marketing all those moral values about why golf is a great experience, like guys drinking beer and Topgolf. I love that, but it's more than that. And we sometimes sell that experience. But I'm just wondering if you, as an investor, believe that there will be a future for businesses like the recreational golf business that will be an antidote for some of the ills that the other things can bring upon society. Question.
It's a big question, and I would be really arrogant if I said I know the answer, but I can tell you that one thing we have seen in the past 15, 20 years in the world is people are seeking more experiences. That's for sure. There's a really big trend where people want experiences. Young generations are less worried about owning cars and houses, and they want to travel. They want to have experiences. I think that's where I do think things are changing. And so I don't know how golf exactly fits in there. What I would tell, if I'm a golf course owner or a golf course operator of anything, I'd say make sure you focus on the experience, right? This is what young people care about. What is the experience? By the way, these are so controversial in some parts of the golf world where, like, well, kids want music on the golf course. Kids want to not have to wear this or that. It is stuff. But the funny part is that for me personally, I'm the only area where I'm probably a golf purist. Yeah, because I tend to think of myself as a rules breaker and a shake the tree kind of guy. The one area where I'm a golf purist is I do want the game of golf as it exists today to be preserved. But I don't care if the guy's wearing a T-shirt. I mean, if the guy's gone out there to play golf and played the way we played without cheating, all the things that we talk about, morality, and then what do I care if the guy has a T-shirt or not a T-shirt or shorts and they're long or short? I mean, there's still a lot of people that care about that stuff. I mean, I get it. And by the way, there's a room in the world for clubs that want to do that. I'm okay, totally okay with that. But you have to also care about what your new generation of consumer wants. And if you're not giving it to them, you're not giving them the experience they want, then you're probably not going to attract them.
Yeah. There's so you can be the best at whatever you choose to be, just be the best at it. And, for every McDonald's, there's a high-end steakhouse and there's a customer for both. And like you said, not everyone wants to play the Olympic Club every day. And not everyone, wants to play a Muni every day. How can the golf industry and how can our gig nation, people that are owners, operators in different parts of the world and that care about the game, growing the game, is there anything that they can do to support the park golf movement?
Let me just say one thing first, because as I said, my ambition is that people think long-term about bringing kids of diverse nature to the game. Whatever you do to accomplish that, whatever it is, I'll be your fan, right? It's not about park golf. If you want to, like I said, just be analytical, think about the 5 barriers to golf participation and see how you, if you're a member of this industry, can break those down. Just think through that. It's simple. There's 5 barriers. Think about how you break them down. You can do it at your club. You can do it wherever you want. I'm going to be a fan. If you want to participate in park golf, certainly, I mean, our ambition is to bring park golf to the neighborhoods across the country so we could be relevant for you and your neighborhood. I mean, at this point, being fully transparent, the challenge for us is to raise all the funds we need for some of these pilots. We're still in fundraising mode for the one in Jackson, Mississippi. We have the portion of the money, haven't fully raised all the money, and I don't want to do any crazy thing of promising something we won't deliver. So we're still in fundraising mode. So money. Yeah, you can help with money. Everybody can help with money. And next year is probably when we're going to make the big push to try to complete the fundraising and finish this project out. But for me, it's really about long-term thinking. This is where I see the challenge for the world. Forget Park Golf, for the world. You want to have a successful club in 30 years. Where are those people coming from? Make sure you're getting them today. You need to be thinking about those kids. And if you think big picture, this country's changing. So you need, where you go, you need to be fishing for your new customers. That's how you can help. And if you want to participate at Park Golf, reach out. We have a team. We're all like people who have day jobs, volunteers. We're starting to just add more full-time resource wherever we can. But for the most part, it's people who have a real passion for this game in the way that I have it and some of our other team members have it.
Nacho, that's awesome. And congratulations on your efforts so far. I attend a lot of conferences around the world, and I get frustrated when I hear the glass is always 3/4 full, if not 90% full. And sometimes I worry about the motivation of why people would stand up and talk about that. Because when I'm standing on a stage, I'm pitching something too. We're all pitching something. So I understand that. I understand that, there's a reason, but I just, you resonate with me so much with regards to your chat, because the goal, not to be negative and not to be, glass completely empty, but we were doing some very detrimental things pre-COVID, discounting golf, getting rid of our databases, relying on others, not servicing the golf or the consumer, expecting, just that we were going to somehow keep our business going without taking care of the experience. And I do share the concern that somehow we feel like we've solved all those things. But people are going to go back to work. People can't keep working from home, in air quotes, like they are. And more importantly, if you look into the stats of junior golf and you look into the stats of junior programs and that kind of growth, and of course there's pockets some places, and there's some clubs that are killing it, which is fantastic. But we need 90% of our clubs to have an unbelievably vibrant, successful, welcome introduction to the game kind of program. And like you said, whether it's in Park Golf or whether it's opening up your driving range for 2 hours on a Sunday night with free clubs and a hot dog, it all adds up to that, creating that shot euphoria that you experienced when you were a 13-year-old. And we all know what got us into the game at some point. And it's a noble effort. So I wish you all the best. Any final thoughts? Any final comments for our listeners?
No, I'd say, look, I really appreciate your time, James. I loved meeting you, and I loved that we had a chance to have this conversation. I'm looking forward to seeing golf be prosperous and protecting the long term of the game in the purest of senses. I love that the industry is pushing towards innovation, and I'm not critical of that. I love the Top Golfs and the new clubs that are coming out that are all simulators, and I love all that stuff. But I do want to preserve what I think is the beauty of this game, a game that's played in nature with friends. And that's what I think we're all aligned to do. So hopefully people will join the bandwagon and remember that we're playing the long game.
Yes, you bet. Well, I invite all listeners to, at the very least, check out park-golf.org, and even just to look at some of the barriers to the game and remind yourselves about what those are, so that you can try to incorporate that into your strategy as you go forward and create your own ideas about how you're going to overcome those barriers. And then more importantly, just to look at some of the qualities of how Park Golf is being put together, because as Nacho said, that can be done in a lot of very small pieces of land that can create that experience that can be a feeder system to your bigger business if that's how it works for you. So, Nacho, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to chatting again. I wish you all the best in your growth and endeavor with Park Golf. And ladies and gentlemen, always a pleasure. Thank you for listening to our Golf Industry Guru podcast. And as always, we will see you on the inside.
Thanks for listening to the Gig Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode and mostly that you learned a few things that will help you improve your business. Join us next time as we continue to bring you the best and brightest golf and hospitality leaders on the planet. Thanks for listening.